I believe in Hashem, I trust in Hashem. There never is a moment when that I am alone and I'm on my own. I believe and I trust in Hashem because I understand that He's holding my hand and every step is perfectly planned. He's holding, so I'll be alright. I believe and I trust in Hashem. So we're coming now from Pesach, a very special Yom Tov, Zman Cheruseinu, freedom. What is freedom? If we take a flower, for example, and if you're able to speak to the flower and say to the flower, how do you like to live? In one place or to move around like a cow, like a deer? What do you like better? And the flower will say, I would like to stand in one place. Because if you pull me out of the ground, I will not be able to live. Take a cow and say, would you like to be stuck to the ground like a flower? Of course not. It wants to move around. In other words, what is freedom? For everyone to do what they're meant to do. When we were slaves for Paro in Mitzrayim, we were forced to do what he wanted. When we got the Torah from Hashem, Hashem also gave us jobs to do, also gave us 613 mitzvahs, things that we got to do, what we should watch out from. So aren't we going from one boss to another boss? Before we were slaves for Parai, and now we're going to be slaves for Hashem. How do we call that freedom? And the answer is very simple. When a flower is able to stay where it belongs and grow and get the sunlight, the warmth, that's freedom for the flower. If you're going to move the flower away and say, now the flower is free, doesn't have to be stuck to one place, that's the biggest torture. The same thing if you take an animal, put him into one place and don't let him move. For an animal, that's the biggest torture. Take a person who has a neshama. As long as he could do mitzvahs and do what Hashem wants him to do and what he's created for, then he feels free. Freedom is not doing nothing, because we have seichel, we have midos, we want to use it. If someone forces me not to use it, that will be torture. So the best freedom is if you take someone who's a pianist, he plays piano, and you let him play piano, that's the best freedom for him. If you take somebody who loves to draw and give him a paper and a pen or crayons to draw, that's his freedom. And the same thing for everyone. We have special tools that Hashem gave us to be able to do Torah and mitzvahs, and that is the biggest freedom for us, that we're able to do it. That's why we daven to Hashem to bring us to Beis HaMikdash. One of the reasons is in order that we're able to do all the mitzvahs that are connected to the Beis HaMikdash. When Mashiach comes, we're able to do all the mitzvahs. Now we don't do all of them because we don't have a Beis HaMikdash. We're missing all the karbanos, all the avodos of the Beis HaMikdash. So that's true freedom. That's why we go from Pesach to Shavuos. From Pesach we go to Matan Torah, because that's the completion of Yetzias Mitzrayim. When does our going out of Mitzrayim get complete? When we get the Torah. That's why our Chachamim say, Kol ein lecha ben chayrim el misha oisik b'talmud Torah. Who is truly free? The one who's busy with learning Torah. So then why didn't the Yidden get the Torah as soon as they left Mitzrayim? If that's the purpose, they should have gotten it. In fact, the Medrash tells us that when the Yidden were told by Moshe Rabbeinu they're going to get the Torah after 49 days, says the Yidden were wondering, why don't we get it right away? And they were all excited and looking forward that they started to count the days. Yes, they did Sfiras HaOmer too. Much different than the Sfiras HaOmer that was later a mitzvah. Later was a mitzvah to count 49 days from the second day of Pesach, when they brought the Karban HaOmer, and they had to count 49 days, and on the 50th was Atzeres, was the Yom Tov of Shavuos. We, today, we also count the Sfira. You know why we count? We didn't bring the Omer yet, Begashmias, we can't, till Mashiach comes. So why do we count? Because when the Yidden went out of Mitzrayim, they counted to get ready for Matan Torah. Why did they have to get ready? Because they came from Tumah. They came from Mitzrayim that was so tamei. There were 49 levels of Tumah. And they were all the way on the bottom. So they had to climb up every day another level. And that brings us closer and closer to be able to get the Torah. That's why we count the Omer now. We count Sfiras HaOmer to get ready for Matan Torah. Every day to get rid of some of the Tumah and get better. That's why last week we counted, it was the week of Chesed. This is the week of Gevura. What's Chesed? Love, kindness, closeness. So all the mitzvahs we do comes from Chesed. We want to get closer to Hashem. What's Gevura? Gevura is strength, strictness, fear. It's the opposite. Yeah, we fear Hashem, therefore we don't want to do any Averis. So everything we do, and every day of Sfiras HaOmer, the 49 days, try to improve in some area of our Torah and mitzvahs. Then we get ready for Matan Torah. I have a story for you which has a wonderful lesson. It's a story that I heard from my father. It's a story that's a mashal with a wonderful nimshal. The reason I'm telling you in the beginning it's a mashal, because I always tell stories that are true. And if it's a mashal, I want you to know in the beginning. We're allowed to tell stories of a mashal, even if it didn't happen, because we can learn a true lesson from a mashal too. The Torah is full of mishalim. So here's the story. There was once a Yid by the name, we'll call him Rebbe Yisrael. He was once traveling from one country to another, and he was on a ship traveling the ocean. And in those days, talking about hundreds of years ago, traveling on the ocean was very, very dangerous. Even today, when a person travels overseas, you bench Gaimel. You say a special bracha to thank Hashem that you came out safely. But in those days, it was even much more dangerous. They didn't have weather satellites to tell you that there's a storm on the way. There are many things that they did not have in those days. And if a storm came, then the ship, Chas v'Shalom, can get drowned, could sink. And that's what happened with Rebbe Yisrael's ship. There was a fierce storm, and the entire ship broke into parts, and the only survivor from the entire ship, which was full of Goyim, the only survivor was Yisrael. Somehow he ended up on an island. The first thing he did, to thank Hashem that he is safe. Thank you, Hashem, for saving me. As he was walking on the island, he suddenly saw a big crowd of people coming towards him. And there's music playing. And then one person walks over to him and gives him a crown and said to him, "Can you please become our king? We saw that God saved you and you're washed up on shore. That means that you're special. So please become our king." And they led him to the palace. He changed his clothes from dirty clothing that looked almost like rags and put on the rich royal clothing. Every day, sitting on the throne, he was thinking of ideas how to improve the island. He was given the keys to the treasures, so he hired the best architects and the best builders to build up beautiful tall buildings and towers, castles, to beautify the island. He also paid many people to be able to build up shopping centers, parks, plazas, and many other things. He decorated the streets. He had them all repaved and put in beautiful, beautiful stones of different shapes and colors. He was really spending a lot of money on this. Now, there's one secret that he wasn't aware of. That he remains to be the king only until the day that another person is washed up at shore that comes from the ocean, and then the next person becomes the new king. He didn't know the secret. So one day, when he was in his room, one of the servants brought him a pack of torn rags and said to him, "This is yours. These are the clothing that you came with. Why are you giving it to me?" "Oh, because today you're no longer our king." "What?" "Well, we didn't tell it to you, but you should know that you're only a king as long as another person didn't come. But it happens to be that this morning another person was washed up at shore, and therefore he became our new king. So you're no longer the king. You can get dressed back into your clothes, and there's a ship waiting for you to take you home." Okay. Takes out of his pocket the keys to the treasures, takes a big sack, says, "I'll be right back." And he goes to the treasure room to fill up the sack with treasures. At least he could take home something with him. But there was a guard standing there and said, "Where are you going?" "Oh, I'm going to open up the treasures." "No, you cannot." "Why? I have the keys. You're no longer the king. You have no more permission to use the treasures. It's over. It's too late." "What do you mean? Sorry, you cannot go into the treasure. Yesterday, you could have done it. 2 days ago, you could have done it. All the days that you were king, you had an opportunity to do so. But now, it's over." You mean I have to go home empty-handed?" "Exactly as you have come." And Yisrael started to cry, and he says, how foolish I was to invest all the money, all the riches, all my time into a temporary island. What I should have done, that while I was king, I could have take all the money and send it to my home. So when I get home, I can use it. But I didn't do so because I didn't know the secret. This is a mashal. When he came home, he told his family a wonderful lesson he learned, which is the Nimshal. He says, Olam Hazeh is like the island of the treasures. When Mashiach comes, we step over to Olam Haba. That's our real home. Where should we invest our time, our koyach, our money, and everything? What should we be doing? We're in the island of treasures. Instead of wasting time and building castles and big buildings here, we should be spending our time on doing more and more mitzvahs. The Torah gives us the secret right away to tell us that as long as we are in Olam Hazeh, till Mashiach comes, is the time to send all the treasures we can, to send it over to our home in Olam Haba, which we're going to have as soon as Mashiach comes. We're not going anywhere else. In the mashal, he had to go away from the island. We're not going away. Because this world becomes a dira b'tachtainim, becomes a proper place for Hashem, for the Shekhinah. So Olam Haba will be right here. And we'll be enjoying all the rewards for all the mitzvahs that we're doing now. And since, as the Rebbe tells us, Mashiach is so close, we better hurry up and get as many more mitzvahs done. Learning Torah, doing mitzvahs, helping others. And you know what? When you eat, and you say a bracha before and after, and you eat l'shem shemayim, in order to be strong enough to serve Hashem, that becomes a mitzvah. When you sleep, and you say Shema before, and when you wake up, you wash negel, you say Moida'ani and wash negel vaser, and you sleep l'shem shemayim in order to have strength to serve Hashem, that becomes a mitzvah. You could be 24 hours of the day, 7 days a week, a servant of Hashem, and you get a mitzvah for every step and every moment that we get ready for Mashiach to come. Especially when it comes closer and closer to Matan Torah, we use the opportunity to strengthen our learning Torah and doing mitzvahs.